Ladies and gentlemen, I bring you a very important news flash. We're going over to the scene of a dreadful crime that's gone official and everything in Govan Pigsty, Govan Police Station, where a terrible atrocity has taken place. So we're going over to our BAFTA-nominated roving reporter, Minty McGovern, otherwise known by her popular name, the Bearded Lady.
And I want fucking 2 Gregs, softies, and don't look in the bookies before you get them, you cheeky cunt. And come back with my change, you cheeky bastard. Oh.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we've gone too early to Minty. She's obviously suffering from the dreadful effects of these magic specials being what appears to be mass murdered in some dreadful atrocity to these wonderful hostile dependent, caring police officers, acting officers. We're going back to Minty now, live at the scene of this dreadful thing that's gone official and everything. Minty, what's happening at the scene of the dreadful thing that's happened there?
Basically, I'm standing outside Govan's pigsty, and there's blood pissing down the stairs, and it's gone off and everything. And I don't know where it's going. I need to get my grip because I've got tummy troubles because I've gone so upsetted. I've got a tear in my eye bone and everything. Oh, you can't. Don't go in the bushes. I want my change, you cheeky bastard. So anyway, sorry, I don't know. See, my head's gone troubled. This is because of what's happened behind me.
Minty, what has actually happened and we're all with you, and we all know you're BAFTA nominated. Basically, why is it that you're actually so upsetted that you're risking your next award ceremony?
Alright, basically because I've no eaten because I was so upsetted, and look behind me, there's blood pissing down the stairs and it's all pig blood. And a lot of people have been walking by thinking they could make black pudding out of it and all that. And they said it was mainly white folk. But the thing is that they were working in there. But the thing is, it is genuinely pig's blood, gone official and everything.
Minty, I don't think you're on message just now. You know, think parrot, and people at home won't understand that reference. And basically, what we're wondering here is, on behalf of the fact that these people were the best of us, what do you believe happened?
I don't know, I just turned up and I'm really needing something to settle my tum-tum, because I was drinking last night, and basically what's happened is, right, all I know is that basically they've all been done in, I think most of them anyway, and it's just pissing down the stairs with pig blood, and it's gone terrible, gone official and everything.
Minty, basically, could you ask some of the locals if they know anything about it? Here's a coloured gentleman coming.
Oh, Abdul, could you come here a minute? Basically, Abdul, sorry, forgive me for wiping my nose, but it's freezing cold out here, it's freezing nuts off you. But the thing is, these pigs, magic specials have been done in, gone official and everything, so it's gone a terribleness, it's gone having, somebody's went in with a bacon slice, a circular saw, and done them all in. What do you make of that?
Somebody has gone into the pig shop and murdered all these subhuman pieces of shit?
No, the police, no, the prisoners.
That is what I meant. You know, the people who they normally arrest are the good people, the people who pay their wages. These are hostile dependents, and you're telling me that they have been murdered? Well, not murdered, correctly punished.
I can't put words into your mouth, Abdul, so basically, what is you are going to say to me?
I'm over the fucking moon. I'm going up the road to have 2 chapatis instead of 1. Cheerio! Minty, for God's sake, please, here's a white man coming. Go and speak to him. He's wearing a ranger strip. He'll be on message.
Bully!
Are you Minty McGovern?
It's me, BAFTA nominated Minty McGovern. I've gone special and everything.
Oh, I seen you. I seen you on the telly. Oh, you're some bit of gear, by the way.
Gonna figured.
And so, what's happened here, like?
Well, basically what's happened is some cunts come down the road and basically murdered all the fucking Polish.
What? Oh, this is the best news of my fucking life. Right? Fucking best news of my life. Minty's trying to speak to Bully in his own primitive vernacular.
Well, basically, all I know is that, you know, there's a load of free bacon in there. You're hungry, Bully?
I'm fucking starving. Oh, that's right. I mean, these people were fucking pieces of shit, right? They were supposed to only fucking arrest Irish Catholics. But they've started fucking hiring these wee fucking monks, and so now they're fucking arresting proper specials, like Huns and Masons and all the rest of it. So I'm fucking glad to see the back of these cunts, by the way. Oh, the other man's fucking doing all the drugs and all the fucking committing all the crimes himself. These fucking subhuman pieces of garbage. Minty, for the love of God, please move on. Please, you're BAFTA nominated, don't forget.
Aye, Bully, get to fuck.
Alright then, alright. Some bit of gear, by the way.
Gonna wish I'd never. So anyway, the thing is, right, yeah, but back to the studio, because I think we're done here.
No, Minty, we're not. No, this might have to be edited even though it's live. Basically, could you speak to one more person? I can see, there's an old lady. She'll be on message. Right, think parrot.
Oh, old cow thingy, majiggery, Minty McGovern gonna official.
Minty! Oh, Minty! You're BAFTA nominated. Ask me anything.
Look, this pig shop behind me, somebody's come in and murdered all the magic specials, gone official and everything. And like, we just want your comment on it.
Minty, this is the best news. Oh, not only did I meet Minty McGovern, but actually, the cop shop's been tagged and all those subhuman spastics have been done in.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologise because, I mean, I think everybody's badly affected. Don't look around the room, just look in my eyes. Basically, I think,
What's he on about?
What? Minty, remember you're BAFTA nominated?
Listen, everybody here's happy as fuck about these spastics getting done in. What's wrong with you?
Ladies and gentlemen, I will go home and hang myself tonight if that will make up for this. Minty's not had her Greg's, and basically that's why she's
Telling the truth, right? Everybody here has said the exact same thing as I'm saying. Basically, these are subhuman cunts who go around fucking doing folk in, robbing folk, selling the drugs and fucking arresting anybody that wants a fucking spliff out their fucking back garden.
Ladies and gentlemen, I resign and I take full responsibility for everything that's happened here today.
Don't talk pish. Every single person with exception in the whole area has said fucking your beauty.
What are the police? What are the police? What are the police? What are the police? Why are the police? What is the police? Everybody knows the answer, mate. Move on. The police-farce are a bunch of spastics, right, who are thicker than a pail of pig shit. That's a statement of provable, categorical, tangible fact. But where did it all begin, I hear you ask?
Then look no further, for I am a fount of all knowledge.
Here's the thing, right? Originally, right, where did the fucking police farce come from? Why are they here? What is it they're all about? Have they degenerated into such a disgusting, subhuman array of farce that they should be turned into bacon, right? The answer is, of course, yes. So, right, basically, the police farce began a long, long time ago, you'd imagine. And what happened was, there was like fucking, just the way it was at its best for us wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at its best, where everybody had a croft, right? That was it at its best for us. Bartering and still having to use some kind of coin, but basically only because of degeneration, you know. Our best ever was when we were solely bartering as crofts, but however, there's always been some megalomaniacal psychopath in a fucking ivory tower, you know, lording it all over the people, and at pain of death, and saying, look, I'll protect you from me if you let me be your king. And, of course, protecting them from subhuman garbage like the Vikings. Ha! Ha ha! You know, who could literally burst into your stable at any juncture at all. Right? And that's where the police came from, believe it or not. A stable. Right? So, you're thought of as being cattle, right? And the police, even the name of the police, came from the fact that you're seen as being cattle, right? Fact, and I should prove it. Long, long time ago, maybe about 1,000 years or something like that, your king, right, referred to you in your wee kind of extended family unit, which would have been quite large, as a stable. Think about that, right? Even ancient kings of megalomaniacal psychopathy, walking about wearing crowns, my delusional fucking garbage. But the point is, they referred to you as being a stable of people. I mean, just like cattle, right? And you wanted to look after your own self, right? However, the king wanted somebody to look after you on his behalf. However, about 1,000 years ago, the king was okay about it. So you did look after yourself. You policed yourself. And that grew. However, don't forget, in between you and that king were all these subhuman pieces of fucking garbage, right? Who were essentially what you now call Freemasons. And they owned, or pretended to own, the land on pain of death to your stable. So you paid money to that imbecile, who then paid money all the way up to this king to look after you. But this king promised he would look after you from him, this landed paedophile, right? Who is stealing children and raping them and murdering fathers in the night, right? The way it's always been, because most people are simian sex offenders. Yeah? They are lying, evil, simian sex offenders needing shot. Lessons. So anyway, here's the thing, right? Right, here's the thing, right? The king on the hill, right, protected you from this piece of fucking shit, right, who looked after the stable you're paying to live in, right? And the people wisely said, look, fuck this cunt, right, we don't trust him, right? We'll build our own police force to police ourselves as these kind of like stables grew into their crofts, etc., etc. And this kept him in his place as he was squashed as a sandwich between the people who have the majority and, although there's always the bandits who will go with this scumbag, and the king who is, you know, decreeing cut his head off if he fucks with my mojo, right? So, King Mojo, right, basically decrees this, and it's cool for fucking 700 years. But as I promised, the very, very first policeman proper was called a Comes Stable. Right? That was the very, very first name of the very, very first
definition of a policeman, comes stable, right? And, you know, each person would have their own definition of what that means. But essentially it meant that you were the policeman of that stable, you know, and basically peace comes stable victory. You know, whatever, you would have your own interpretation of what it meant. But essentially it was, he comes from that stable, right? You know, so it doesn't seem as victorious. And it means, obviously, then this landlord cunt doesn't own you directly. You have this guy policing you and policing him, and then reporting to the mojo if he tries to fuck too much with these innocent people, right? So it grew from there, but like I say, it lasted for 700 years, right? 700 years like that, where you were policing yourself. Then what happens? Ha-ha! 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 Right? Fucking Viking bastards come down from like the north of France, take over the whole of England, right? And then from there, shite was spread throughout the land. But they liked the idea of this comes stable. However, they then changed it into its modern definition, right? Con-stable. Right? Con-stable. Right? And that's what it is today. And that's what it's been fighting to be since that moment onwards. Because from the inception of these Norman pricks, right, they changed but one thing, which was that you no longer really policed yourself. You know, you were beholden entirely to this bastard, and in fact several bastards, and the bastard you were wanting to protect yourself from. And from that moment, your ancestors started lying like fuck to themselves. They'd already been lying to themselves, but then they started voluminously lying, in line with pathological lying invaders who are saying, you know, we will protect you from ourselves. They're the invading imbeciles who've murdered their way across from France to England, and now they're saying, we will protect you as before, like your king had done for 700 years, where everything was tickety fucking boo. As good as it could get, really, considering the first corrupt influence, really. However, that guy did protect them. King Mojo did protect them for 700 years. But in the end, obviously, a big ginger bastard came in and fucking took over. And so, my point being, that's where the police farce started to come in. And it degenerated further, and you can check this yourself, right? It degenerated and degenerated until it was widely reputed that the most degenerate and alcoholic paedophile would take over the role of the policeman and, of course, the judge that developed from these areas, right? And although people still tried to go back to the 100 who were, you know, the first kind of like self-policing group, it invariably eventually became nationwide, that this centralised policing of these locales, which is ridiculous and impossible, illogical, insensible, and a farce. Yeah, a centralised person 500 miles away pretending they know what you should be doing 500 miles away, and you giving money to somebody 500 miles away to pretend they know what you should be doing 500 miles away. What you should be doing is travelling 500 miles and fucking executing the subhuman cunt, which is what you eventually did. So here's the thing, right? What's going on? It's the only thing we've been a living Christ. The Holy Spirit can get you at any fucking time. You know, mustn't grumble. Thing is this, right? Right? Thanks. Right. Here's the thing, right? It's been shit ever since, because these fucking invading, subhuman, megalomaniacal psychopaths, war-loving lunatics from hell, obviously, didn't have your best interests at heart. You know, see when they get in their longboats, you know, and they're all drinking skull, right? And they're heading towards, England, were they genuinely thinking, I think what we should do when we get there, by the way, is set up a wonderful system to really look after those people and really care about them? Or were they thinking,
Treasure and rape, murder, treasure and rape, raping kids, eating kids, treasure, rape and killing?
you decide. So anyway, the thing is this, right? You don't decide. You should fucking decide because you've got it really good right now. You don't understand. It's as degenerate and decayed, in fact, more degenerate and more decayed than ever in history. So why am I saying you've got it good? Because the farce, right, is no longer necessary, never fucking was necessary. And you're at the stage where you can truly self-govern because these are the most inept, subhuman pieces of garbage ever shat into fucking creation. And they're wearing a binary fucking jumpsuit with clown shoes and you can easily go to where they are, right, they're all gathered in the same fucking pigsty and fucking execute them. Yeah? Minty had it right, the bearded lady. Right? Why am I saying this? I must have damning evidence on these fucking subhuman pieces of shite. Yeah? So, I do. But before we go any further, eventually people had enough of this crap, right? And so eventually you had the Bow Street runners because of all these degenerate subhuman fucking pieces of garbage where there was no criminals doing time. The only criminals were the fucking judges and they were making up pish and then putting thousands and thousands of people into a prison system for fiscal gain to become an even fatter paedophile. Right? So, the Bow Street runners got up, down. That was actually, you couldn't get employed unless you ran to work singing like that. And the thing is, right, eventually what happened was, right, they wanted to dispense with that. And in the end, the best thing that happened, apart from people starting their own little police forces down by the dock, because all this fucking time, through all these fucking centuries I'm talking about, landed paedophiles behind the whole thing constantly get off on trying to rob the people living in fucking stables. The people they see as cattle, the people they get off on tormenting to show themselves they're powerful because they're unself-aware beasts, right? And that's the correct word to describe a paedophile, a fucking beast. And they have certain characteristics which will trick you into thinking they're human, right? For example, Jimmy Savile, and he would go on, he'd be quite charming, wouldn't you think? But I always saw hatred in his eyes. And I read tells, as it happens. And you would think to yourself, oh, he's a charming guy, and you would watch all these shows, but, the BBC hoovering tons of cash out your pockets for decades to give to a paedophile ring, a pyramid of fucking paedophiles. Yeah? Imagine that. They were fully cognizant that they were all paedophiles. It's hard not to know if you are one, right? And knowing on top of that, that they've made up pish to make sure you have money taken out of your stable and given to them, otherwise their constable will come round and fucking arrest you. And knowing damn well that you're then funding a pyramid of paedophiles to stand in front of you and go, as it happens. Along comes a man, I can't find a single solitary bad word to say about him. I was really looking, and so if anybody knows any bad things about him, disabuse me of the fantasy that this might genuinely be a really good man. Robert Peel, I expected him to be the scum of the earth, right? The only thing I can find is where the word pig became associated with the police-farce, right? Right? And he came in because he turned out to be quite a fucking amazingly good guy. It seems to be anyway, but all accounts that I can find, right? Robert Peel. One bit of corruption, the only bit of corruption I can find, and to me it's nothing, right? Right? You weren't, it wasn't like acceptable to run pigs through London, right? But he had a pig farm and he wanted to sell his pigs fresh, So this doesn't sound like a brilliant man, does it? You know, he's keeping pigs, running them through the streets. Maybe he felt joy doing it. But then they get their heads cut off, but they're sold live. So perhaps he didn't want to cut their heads off, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. Maybe it was the last hurrah. Maybe he was a joyful, wonderful man. Some people put him right up there with other luminaries of the time. The point being, he seemed a moral man. He did seem a very moral man. And if you read the tenets of his genius and what he envisioned as a replacement for the Bow Street Runners and a confirmation of what originally used to be at its second best. The best was if when we had crofts, we executed landed paedophiles, telling us we need to pay them to stay on their land when they're fuck all, right? So we almost had it good at one juncture, and we could almost get there again if we would just make one big push, right? And so, what I'm pointing out to you is Robert Peel put in a very short series of notes, what was rejected repeatedly by paedophiles whom you call politicians. 90% of politicians being paedophiles. For example, Edward Heath was renowned for being a mass murderer of children, and he consumed them, raped them, and did unspeakable things to them, which he got more and more off on, let's put it that way. You can use your imagination on that. But basically then he would appear in public and he would go,
sorry I've come. I can't remember why I'm here.
Basically, and you can go and look at video of Edward Heath, and as usual, he was presiding over a whole blackmail cabinet of paedophiles who were scared of him, and then going home to rape and murder an orgy of children. So that was Edward Heath. Now, when Margaret Thatcher, who was a megalomaniacal psychopath, a scumbag needing shot in the head, basically she's a serial killing subhuman lunatic, just obsessed with her imaginary self-image. She presided over an entirely blackmailed cabinet of paedophiles, well-known fact. And of course the tradition was perpetuated to Gordon Brown, who's a well-known paedophile, who was blackmailed by Tony Blair into submission, and basically along with his cabinet. And of course Gordon the Gopher, or Tintin, you know, David Cameron, who rather gave away the fact that he closely associates homosexuality with paedophilia, when one of the bravest men in that country, you know, what's his name now? Phil Schofield, am I right? Is that his name? Shoved his fucking hand up his arse and worked him like Gordon the Gopher. Basically, and he gave away an almighty tale on that particular show about his cabinet being paedophiles, and predominantly homosexual, which 90% of paedophiles are homosexual. It's quite important to know that. And 2/3 of homosexuals are paedophiles on the male side, 1/3 on the female side. However, that's just the converse of everybody else. One of the most disturbing revelations I found was that 2/3 of so-called heterosexual females are paedophiles. That's 2 out of every 3 females you meet are lunatics. Well, we already knew that, but they're actually paedophiles. But they've no moral conscience and just doesn't really matter. You know, they're not necessarily hands-on paedophiles. 1/3 of all Western males are paedophiles. 1 out of every 3 males you meet, given the opportunity, just go ahead and do that. More than that are actually paedophilic, however, 1/3 are confirmed paedophiles. Yeah. So anyway, that's the planet I live on. Planet of the simian sex offender. Get your goddamn paws off of me, you goddamn filthy chimps! I'll come come to that in a minute. So here's the thing, right? So Robert Peel says, and you've got to go and read it. It was fucking lovely, right? Absolutely lovely. I hope I've got time to go back to Gordon Brown because he has sinned against you and sinned against you and sinned against you, and it's time to stretch that fat fuck's neck. So anything is this, right? Robert Peel said the first thing that a policeman should be, right, who are referred to as pigs because he used to run his pigs through the streets, and that's where the word came from. It was actually low-life people started referring to them as that because they didn't like them because they were wanting to arrest them. And so the first volume of that type of police were actually good guys because he called specifically for moral men, and it's very touching if you go and read it, right? He called for moral men who would use the least type of resistance and keep in mind the historic origins and traditions of the original Comes stable, yeah? With the person, you are the police force. They are just you in a uniform. And, wait for it, they've to be your friend. And he said they've to treat you with a sense of humour, to try and make you laugh and be your friend, so you wouldn't want to betray him. And he's to use the least type of coercion possible. Just any kind of like physical force must be a real last resort, and he must treat you with respect and kindness at all times, and remember what it's all about. Never ever degenerate into a power struggle, unless of course he's dealing with an out and out bampot, you know. But the way he described it was just really, really lovely. And he said this in the houses of paedophiles, and they unsurprisingly rejected it. And then I think it was actually on the second time they went. The second time they said thumbs up, because I think he'd had the sway of the people behind him. And it's really simple, right? He just wanted it to be as good as it had ever been, really, before the fucking Normans, right? He didn't use those words though. But the thing is, that's right. If you go and read it, it's just really lovely. Every single word he says. The only fly in the ointment being corrupt judges, because in his second last sentence, he, imbues into judges like a sense of authority, independence, and pursuit of individual revenge for someone who's been who's suffered an injustice that's immoral and unjustifiable. This person has no alibi for treating this person this way. This is what they must pursue, and what the country at large, the state, he called it, would want done unto this person. So that sounds wholesome and good. However, in America, just like in Hate Britain, as I call it, 90% of judges are paedophiles. So, in America, 10% are widely known to be paedophiles, right? 10%. And 30% are well known. So, 10%, every cunt knows they're paedophiles. High court judges in America, right? 30%, well known amongst the secret imbeciles. But it's actually 90%. 90% of pieces of shit sending innocent men into a dungeon system exactly as it had been at its most degenerate, when the Normans had basically let this all set in, and the 100 strong, self-governing body of individuals who don't need these fucking pieces of crap, making up pish to put you in a dungeon system and work fuck out of you. For 20 quid a week, I think it is, they work fuck out of you. So it's just really slavery, modern day slavery. And that's what these imbeciles are into, right? If you look at Americans, right? Americans are working 3 jobs a week. Fuck me. Good Lord Almighty, right? 3 jobs a week! Are you mad? Right? 3 jobs a fucking day! What the fuck? Right? so that fat bastards in a sedan chair behind them can delude themselves that they're superior. They are severely mentally handicapped. They have no self-awareness. Like Saint Bram Stoker, one of the closest novelists ever to get to the Windsor family, portrayed them as being unable to see themselves in the mirror. This is neuroanatomical fact. They have no cognitive empathy or no affective empathy or both, right? And they've got no morality, so they have no conscience, right? And they don't have object constancy. In other words, you know, they don't have, they're in a, they live moment to moment and just like throw truth behind their head. It doesn't really matter. They're just trying to get what it is they want at all costs. I could go on, but the thing is this, right? So, starts Police-farce, the policemen that were the origins of what's degenerated into the kind of shite that needs to be turned into bacon today, right? The true definition of what the criminals used to call pigs actually have become criminals who are fucking filthy fucking pigs, right? And I've got damning evidence on them, you'll be glad to hear. So, in the last video I did, I told you about a female serial killer who targeted me, who was basically committing countless crimes against me, but during her campaign, she fell for me.
Of course, I'm quite a good character now.
So the thing is, and she wanted to kill me because she couldn't have me. She was doing all these things in her head. Well, I was just trying to be Christ-like towards her and loving and caring and considerate. And, you know, I saw her inner child and I really felt enormous sympathy for her and sentimentality for her and wanted to help her. However, she is what you would call evil. She wouldn't see herself that way, but she is. I mean, every single person without exception drawing breath in the right mind would say,
Even just for one of those things, she's evil.
so the thing is, that's right, she was evil, but she tried to help me, right? And if you take away all the litany of evil, there is this, you know, aspect of her trying to help me, you know, like Myra Hindley, deciding as Ian's killing a child to let it live and then to send it the odd Easter card. So, in a nutcake, right, I said in the last video that that I wasn't going to look at anything else that anyone sent me unless it was put right through by a girl called Cheryl, who is doing a triple salco with Pike and probably landing on top of the Eiffel Tower as we speak. And the thing is, right, she's doing wonderfully for me just now. She's got me on Amazon and all sorts. Here's one ring. She's been fielding everything, but in the last video, I gave the impression that I would still have one way of seeing the kind of things that to this day, almost 3 years since I've last seen Marie McCallum, she still sends me junk for evil reasons as well as real reasons, because if you softly, you can catch the monkey. And because I am very, very skilled at being non-reactionary, let's put it that way, with a paranoid schizophrenic psychopath who's megalomaniacal, and who, if they're not having sex regularly or some kind of drug to opiate them, start to hallucinate, and so they'll then start to believe anything, right? And so, but nonetheless, in all of that, throughout all that, if you are non-reactionary and seemingly very forgiving and understanding rather, and not disgusted by them deliberately trying to repulse you, right? It's called ambient abuse, and it leads to post-traumatic stress disorder. And her knowing that I have been clinically depressed my whole life, which is just, you've got a leaky door in your head and there's an abundance of depressants, right? She knew this. And my point is this, right? She targets people she sees as being vulnerable. She couldn't have been more wrong with me. And there's lots of psychopaths nodding their heads at that one. There's not much in them. You probably hear a marble rattling about inside a fucking steel trap. And so, right, she targeted me because she targets people who she thinks she can cause post-traumatic stress disorder to, who will then kill themselves, which people with PTSD tend to do. However, I say she'd got it wrong with me, so conversely she then fell for me. She was impressed by my non-reactionary and she aspects, and she revealed her true self, you know, and she regretted that and then tested me in her own ways. Well, I'm sitting watching her and just trying my best to be kind to her. And in a nutcake, right, she then does her best to hope she can cause me long-lasting psychological abuse, which was, as I've said before, like trying to lick down the Andes 10,000 miles away, you know, but it's actually a statue of Satan's cock. And I'm just looking at you from the top of a mountain range. So, the point being though, right, she did actually fall for me. And after she came down from her high, because they get these bipolar highs, right, they're megalomaniacally insane during those times. This is what they live for, because they spend a long time in the depths of despair and I'll never fucking be in there, but they are. And they have these dark, whistling, hollow nights of ruin and, you know, knowing that they are. The phrase that resonated with her, out damned spot. Right? Right from Macbeth, right? Where a phrase that resonated with her again when I told her I'd had a dream that I'd murdered somebody, and then I woke up and it took me a while to realise I hadn't murdered them. Back in the day when I still would have thought that was wrong. No, murder is different from execution. You know, you have to execute some people. Yeah, and murder obviously is wrong. It's an enormous difference. You know, like Ted Bundy was executed. Eileen Wuornos was executed. These were simply the correct things to do. You know, and in a nutcake, she gave me an enormous tell about that. And also a movie with Ben Kingsley where at the end, to ruin it for you, him and his wife put bags over their head and suffocate themselves because they're constantly being tormented by a relentless stupid bitch, you know, and when I watched it the first time, I haven't ever watched it since, she didn't strike me as being like a psychopath. I'll watch it again maybe one day. And this really resonated with her and I read a tell. So she goes on until the person kills themselves. And this is what she had in store for me. So that's pretty evil. If you know that about yourself and you ever do that again, then you're a serial killer and it's culpable homicide, attempted homicide. You're attempting, and so she gave me this impression and I've got evidence that she was trying to do it again. So, as I said, I got to know her and genuinely cared about the real her and saw her total life story. I understood implicitly how that could come to be, but what I didn't know was she's a sex offender. Right? So this opened doors for me. You know, most people would, you know, fall through them to hell and kill themselves if they knew what I know. However, I'm a past master at all these things because my mother's a paedophile and I trained with the best. And so if you've lived with clinical depression your whole life and you've had 3 nervous breakdowns, you know, which I didn't know what they were, but I'll be covering them. Yes, I will. And Erol on PTSD in the next wee while. And it's something that's very important and I think it will be very, very revolutionary. And what I would say is this one thing I go back to. Although Marie McCallum, she was called at the time, and her sister Jackie Bradley, who are in it together, working as a kind of double act to fuck with people's minds and even our children know about it. The point being, she did try to help me. And she was one of the most helpful people. Even amongst all that madness, because of my ability to be non-reactionary, she actually helped me more than, you know, well, I could count on 2 hands how many people have actually helped me my entire life, no matter how good I was to them. And she was one of them. Maybe even in the top 5, I think, maybe. But old Les is the he's flying about heaven right now. he did his best to help me, and to my discredit, man, if anybody doubts what I'm saying, I'm not trying to convince you of anything, right? Old Les, man, what he must have put up with me, man. Because I remember him saying to me, Erol, it's the fucking Jews! I actually said to old Les, to my eternal shame, I said to him, Les,
I'm not anti-Semitic.
You know, and he said, he just persisted with me, you know, he persevered. And he said, Erol, it's the fucking Masons! And, you know, we would barter back and forwards, you know, and banter on this. And then he kept on going, and he sent me, I mean, top secret information. And years before it happened, and McCallum did the same, you know, she would send me cryptic pish, hoping that I would suffer by being drawn down to something quite sickening. You know, because at the end of it, from a man's psychology, if you're a man, it's quite important to know, if a female makes contact with you, unconsciously you'll need to take a deep breath and cool your jets, because if you are attracted to that female, if you expect a sexual reward at the end of that, if she's taking your time and you're building up in this manner, and all she's trying to do is draw your attention down to a microdot, then hop to the side and go, ha 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 ha, and then just run away. You know, you'll be left, you'll be left gutted. So, and that's what she was trying to do. However, my ability to be non-reactionary, I was, you know, reading into this and trying to see the real her. Wait for it, right? This is how helpful she's been, right? I found the cure for paranoid schizophrenia. Wait for it, I've never ever conveyed this, right? When she abandoned the scene of the crime, as she put it, using a line from my novel, which she was obsessed with, which is now available on Amazon. You can find a link to it in there. So she put up a song that seemed celebratory, and this is amazing. When a paranoid schizophrenic or a psychopath, either way with temporal lobe dysfunction, or any type of psychopath, they can peel themselves away like a transfer from its backing, you know, and just, you know, a skedaddle, you know, right? And she went up the road and she put on one of my favourite songs on her channel, Keep the Customer Satisfied by, you know, Art Garfunkel and Paul Simon. And obviously that's very disrespectful. She was trying to pretend that I had had a relationship with her as a prostitute with a John. She is a prostitute, I'm no John. Although I have been with more than one prostitute by accident, you know, and they told me afterwards. Who else would get prostitutes to have sex with them for free on a regular basis? But the thing is, Jesus of Nazareth. But the point I'm conveying is, I don't do things by halves. She kept sending me these things, right? And I would have to go and look for them though. And she'd hacked my computer so she could see what I was doing, and she could move what she's imagining is like the bowl of dog food further and further away to that. So basically, I would go on her YouTube channel, which she'd been sending me stuff on, dedicating stuff to me on that for quite some time, for about, say, 3 or 4 months during her seduction campaign, her love bombing and stuff like that. During which she did fall for me, but she also hedges her bets due to her inability to trust, because she's untrustworthy. So I went onto her website, right, and she's adept at these kind of things, right, and on it was The Devil Went Down to Georgia, which is a bit of a giveaway. That tells the whole story. She's really got a rich sense of humour. If you don't mind someone trying to kill you and committing 43 crimes against you, a campaign that's continuing to this day, depending on how you look at it. Right? So, I'll overcome anything, because I'm a living Christ. It's just like, you know, this is what tends to happen to us, is nobody believes us till it's too late. It is the Jews. Jesus said that. The Zionist Jews, that is. And unfortunately, they've metamorphosed into Kurds. Or to put it more accurately, since they're in the arse crack between Russia and Turkey, and they've been shot out of Turkey, really, they're actually turds. So, and they were influenced by Hebrews who were shot out of Palestine and sent back and all the way there, although it was called something different at the time. But the point I'm conveying is Hebrew influenced Kurds are pretending to be Jews and killing you. I'll come to it, right? So in a nutcake, right, the cure for paranoid schizophrenia, right, she eventually put up a song which was celebratory again, and it seemed ridiculously celebratory. It was one of my least favourite songs of all time, and I told her that in person. Yellow river is in my blood and in my brain, or whatever, right? And it fucking stayed with me, right? So maybe once every 2 or 3 months this would come back. Yellow river, celebratory song, right? And she had had an enormous up and enormous downs all the way through this campaign against me. And it was a remarkable thing. I should make a movie out of it, but the point is, it's dignifying her too much in that regard. And so, eventually, I discovered the cure for paranoid schizophrenia from that. She knows these things, you know. She told me, you know, that the was a paedophile while me reading one of her tells ages before anybody else knew. Right? She knows these things. She also knew Max Clifford was involved in paedophilia fucking years before any other motherfucker knew. I'm glad he's been pursued by that wee baldy English guy. And the thing is, right, she also dedicated a YouTube channel to me to let me know Colonel Gaddafi was a good guy who was about to be assassinated by Hitlery clitoris. And Hillbilly Clinton, right? Hitlery clitoris is a megalomaniacal psychopath, serial killer, who murders anyone who does anything for her because of her delusions of grandeur. She's breath-slighted, and if you ever hear her laugh, this is exactly how she laughs, with eyes that can't believe she's getting away with masturbating in plain view. She's a serial killer, mass murderer, and the scum of the fucking earth. Right? I accidentally saw her, and that's precisely how she sounded. And she, with one practised pish, she'd dispatched a guy who'd heckled her, who was walking off with a carrier bag full of beer, you know, and everybody applauded this subhuman sack of dirt, you know, who needs to be, right? Anyway, so she let me know that Hitlery clitoris was going to basically sit and watch live television of a guy whom she'd been, you know, chatting away with recently, being stabbed to death and fucking stabbed up the arse on live television, murdered on live television, because he wouldn't accept her controlling him anymore and wanted to do good. I'll say that again. Do good by his home country. It wasn't, by any stretch of the imagination, a good guy, but then the majority of people are not good, you know. 2/3 of females are paedophiles. 1/3 of males are paedophiles. That's the planet I'm on. Fuck me, man. When Jesus discovered that, he just thought, you know, fuck it. You know, I'm going to do it myself. I'm just going to stand up and take it all on. And that's what I did, you know, because McCallum told me about the police-farce, hoping that I wouldn't expose myself to that experience. However, being a living Christ, right? Of course I would. And I was forewarned, and psychopaths don't know anything about a human brain, really. They try and outflank it and talk constant shit, which usually works, and pretend and point their finger at you and say, you are what I am. And as I said, disown everything just to try and score a point against your amygdala and hopefully leave a looping trauma, or get you to self-examine, worry that you're a bad person, especially if they're wearing a binary jumpsuit and clown shoes. And so the thing that I'm getting to is, you know, like, Yellow River, Yellow River, right? You know, most guys would be fucking heartbroken because I genuinely cared about her. And it was like, the things that resonated with her, you know, that I can read like tells, no problem at all. Annie, the story of Annie, and another ginger girl who had a kind of orphan type lifestyle. These resonated with her, and I saw that in her, and I felt a great deal of sympathy. Also the Sydney Devine song, I'm nobody's child. You can go and listen to it yourself, but the thing is, I felt enormous true sympathy for her true self. However, she was priding herself. She imagined she'd hypnotised me and that I was falling for her imaginary projected second self, and she's standing at an angle looking at me, you know. But she would throw out ridiculous things I would have to respond to, but I can see peripherally, and she didn't know that, you know. And in one of my previous videos, I was looking straight ahead, and most people can't catch an insect anyway, but I've got lightning fast eye-hand coordination, and even peripherally, I caught an insect live in one of my things. I only noticed later on, I thought, oh aye, that's a good example of my eye-hand coordination, and I'll expose more of that in Erol on Killing, or I should maybe call it Executing, which I'll be coming to help people right across the board. So anyway, humans rather. I come back to this, right, or move on to it. Yellow River, what has that got to do with it? Well, I looked at identical twins, right, who were then born and found to be what you would class as paranoid schizophrenic. And all it means to be paranoid schizophrenic means you have a small, more primitive brain even than a psychopath tends to have. However, it's comorbid with psychopathy, about 90% of the time. And you'll have like wider ventricles, and you'll have exposed wiring, so you'll start hearing things. So you'll have a kind of experience of being like much more simian than the average psychopath, so much more megalomaniacal, and therefore more sex is necessary throughout the course of the day. However, you'll tend to alienate people by behaving more bestially than human. And so, like I say, lying, evil, simian, sex offender needing shot. Lessons for you there. So, here's the thing. In the womb, identical twins, right, who had the one amniotic sac, or whatever the fuck it's called, they would come out, and they would both, if one would be paranoid schizophrenic, the other would be paranoid schizophrenic. However, if they had their own separate sacs, if one came out and was paranoid schizophrenic, the other one tended not to be. Not all the time, maybe like say 40% of the time you could find the other one is too, but why that massive difference? Why is it when they share the same sac, they both come out and they're both paranoid schizophrenic, if one is, the other is? Whereas if they have separate sacs, one is and the other one tends not to be the majority of the time. Yellow River, you get the idea. Basically, what happens is the womb tries to abort them, or at least one of them. It's thinking, oh here, I'll just go with this one, I prefer this one, you know, but this one clings on for dear life, and it starts sweating. And one of the well-documented facts about the vast majority of paranoid schizophrenics, so-called, is that they sweat a great deal. They also have, like, because they've got a small brain, they've got flattened activity and function and capacity at the front of the brain, and a very small proto-emotional incapacity, as you'd imagine, in the amygdala, where your heart and soul emanate from. And the point is, this will resonate and emanate. And what I'm pointing out to you is, so in the womb, which aborts children all the time and makes dreadful mistakes, and Zionist reptiles, I've tinkered with you so it makes more mistakes all the time. For example, it's testing for an X or a Y, and if it gets it the wrong way around, you're ending up being flooded with the wrong hormones, really. So you'll get estrogen if you're male, and you'll make female connections, and so basically you'll be homosexual, or at least that's what it'll be called. But essentially you have a female brain in a male body, and you will be subject to testosterone, as you'll have testicles, much more than the average female would. And conversely, with the female, you know, when she's flooded with testosterone by mistake, and then she makes male connections, and so you would call her a lesbian, but she's not, you know. She has a male brain in a female body, and these fucking paedophile cunts don't want these people to know. They want them to go with the same sex. They want an evolutionary cul-de-sac. This is what these cunts are obsessed with. Remember, stable. Right? You're cattle to these cunts, and they just want to cull you. Cull you. Every single thing your so-called fucking politicians are obsessed with is culling you. You're being culled constantly in every conceivable fucking way. Yeah. Con stable. Con everyone in the fucking stable, because you're going to be fucking culled. You're being culled right now. So my point is I'll get onto that in a second. When the child is sweating like fuck in the womb because the womb's trying to abort it, because it's made a boo-boo, you know. The child's clinging on to this uterus for dear life, you know, Kurt Cobain in utero, right? And what happens is the sweat pours out of it. And then, remember, you're breathing underwater for the first 9 months of your life. It inhales this yellow river and goes through the lungs, right, through the capillaries and away up through the blood-brain barrier and arrests the progress of the fucking brain by flooding that sack of amniotic fluid, whatever the fuck it's called, right? And it arrests the brain. Yeah. And it doesn't grow any further, it stays that size. So if our species wasn't being genocided in a form of megadeath right now for a quarter of a decade on top of everything that's gone before by a giant nuclear arsehole called Fukushima, by all the different reactors deliberately built by Zionist spastics along a obvious earthquake fault line, every single one of them, right? And you're just going to sit there, right? You've got children you love, you've got people you love in your life, you're just going to sit there because you've been disconnected since these fucking Norman spastics showed up. Ha! Right? You've been disconnected. Oh, we like what you've evolved here, and it's been standing in good stead for 700 fucking years. But what we're going to do is we're just going to fucking disconnect that. And you've been more disconnected than you were when it was almost as good as it got, right? And basically since then, it's degenerated and degenerated and degenerated. But to finish off that last moment, so that's some of the things that have been helpful that McCallum's sent me. And as I mentioned Cheryl earlier on, I didn't let on in the last video, I haven't seen one single solitary thing that McCallum sent me. And it's been over a month now. And Cheryl has, though. Because I don't have anything, I've got a very, very private email address that nobody else on earth knows except Cheryl, right? And so Cheryl gets all my old emails that used to come to me, and I didn't know if I was going to get anything, right? And so I said to Cheryl, right, just before the last gig, right, I said, I'm going to kind of prime you as to the kind of thing that she tends to send me, right? And she was already kind of au fait, she'd read a lot of my stuff, right? And it was just an amazing coincidence. What happened was I got something from McCallum right there and then, right? And I said to Cheryl, look, this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of thing that she sends me, right? And I had no idea it was from her, right? Now I told Cheryl what we would see if it was from her, and then Cheryl thought to herself that I must have already seen this, right? And I hadn't, right? And I said to her, no, I had to reassure her, and she knows I will not tell a lie, right? I can mislead you. There has to be an overarching range of moral aims for that. I'll never deceive you, you know? And the thing is this, right? Never ever deceive anyone, or you are punishing yourself. You might just call that bad luck, though. And the thing is this, so we got one of these things in, right? And I swear I didn't fucking know it was for her, right? And I said, you know, what it starts off with is basically, it'll be usually something that's along the lines of, I'm not really here, I'm not really here, you ain't seen me, and there'll usually be something that then says, you're to blame for what I'm to blame for, you are what I am, right? And then they'll usually be followed by something quite heartbreaking, which is intended to be heartbreaking, hoping to cause you PTSD, that keep this thing going, eventually. However, I come to a conclusion about this in a second, right, or so. Then, after the heartbreaking thing, it's your fault again, and then it's your fault that her heart's broken. Then it's like, oh, I don't give a fuck anyway, I never liked you anyway. And then it's something insulting, or would be insulting, and she's in a glass house with no self-awareness, and then it's something like usually off the wall, and you either get it or you don't, like Yellow River, and then it's something along the lines of ha ha ha, I've drawn you down to the microdot again, then I'm away, get to fuck, right? And I said this to Cheryl, right, and before my fucking eyes I thought, this is for her, you know. And so basically she logs in through TeamViewer 8, I think it is, and we're on, I think it is, and so she's looking at my screen, right, and I'm assuring her, I'm telling her, like, this, I had no idea, you know. And basically at the very top of it, in this one, it was motorbikes, right, and then I remembered all the fucking tells that I'd got from her, and whenever I'd mentioned motorbikes, right? So I put this into maybe why she has had an accident, and she's had some of her brain removed and things like that, blah, 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 blah. I think she had an aneurysm as well. So she had a lot of problems with hurting her brain, basically. Also, her sister hurt her brain for her. And so on. Just basically, she's had a lot of brain damage. And I think harrowingly as well, she went into an asylum. I think there was an intervention and she went in either way. And when she was there, she was raped repeatedly by the so-called orderlies, which, if I was her, I would take them to task, you know. However, she wasn't in her right mind. And like I say, they're rampant all the time. And so a good-looking blonde lassie, or strawberry blonde, whatever, ginger, you know, our orangutan, strawberry blonde. The thing is, I thought this resonated as a tell when I spoke about these kind of things to her, and that's what I'm going on. And once again, she could have been misleading, but they were rather obvious tells. And so her entire life has been a series of being punished by the moral law of the universe, which she puts down to bad luck, because she's nihilistic, as there's no real meaning at the front of her brain, really. There's just a kind of like instinctive type of behaviour, really. And it's kind of soulless. However, she does have a fucking heart in there somewhere. I've noticed that with them, you know. But the point is this, right? If you don't mind me finishing my point, you fucking cunt. Right? Right? She gave these useful people... If you can be non-reactionary when you're going through this, right? If I committed a volume of offences against you and tried to cause you brain damage, hoping that you would kill yourself because I couldn't dominate you, use you, get in a relationship with you, get what I want from that, and blah, blah, blah. Imagine me still sending you shit, and we're coming to the most important bit about this. Right, so I was looking through this, and sure as fuck it was from her, right? And it was the same MO. It matched everything to a fucking T, like an AC/DC song. Her implying that she's bisexual. She's lived a bisexual lifestyle, but she's the most female I've ever encountered in my fucking life. And I've seen more different females bare arses than you've eaten meringues. And the thing is this, right? Right? Oh, it sounds quite good, doesn't it? Fuck me. I wouldn't mind having as many bare... I'm telling you, you're taking your life in your own hands. The thing is, right? 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 So, these tells are coming out of this, and it was AC/DC, and it was a song I told her I didn't like, so I'd heard it on a really loud, tinny car radio, and it was bagpipes, but unbeknownst to her, a few weeks before that, I'd actually listened to it and quite liked it, because I'd seen it for the first time as a video through good speakers, right? And so, I think she was trying to imply that I should give up music. Right? The kind of cheeky shite, talentless people who are psychopaths tend to see if, you know, when they're in the glass house trying to throw stones from inside the glass house, and I'm standing on top of the Andes with boulders. Right? So here's the thing. Also, I think it's telling her life story, so it depends how you want to interpret it. And eventually it gets to Adele, right? And the first time I ever worked out that she was a ginger, right? She had ginger hair, she showed up as a blonde, was something I've not seen for about 2 years now, right? My monitor's enormous, however, I'm short-sighted, so I magnify the screen a bit. So the right-hand side has been missing for 2 years, so I haven't got one tell from the right-hand side of my YouTube channels pages, right? And she used to put very, very helpful hints up there, right? Because when she would watch one of my videos, if it was relatively new, whatever she watched next, which is a good marketing play, would come up on the right-hand side. And then she would see me going and watching that, because she'd hacked my computer, so she'd see what I was doing and study my behaviour. And then always be moving the dog's bowl in her mind, and I'm having to endure that for this cheeky wee bastard, you know, and cheeky wee bitch, you know. It's always transference. You are what I am. However, my ability to be non-reactionary to a Tibetan level, right, really helped me. However, when you find out that the majority of people on this planet are sex offenders needing shot, you know, Jesus went for it. However, unlike Jesus, who has an almost identical, slightly less evolved, but almost identical brain to myself, and almost identical life story as well, he didn't have Ryanair waiting on the runway for him with everything he owned, able to be wrapped up in these two gigantic sheets, right? And the thing is this, right? If I'd got a female when I was putting this through this kind of x-ray thing, I wouldn't have been able to leave at that time, right? And everything was precision timed by the moral law of the universe. I'll go over it perhaps in another video. The thing is this, right? It was a guy, he x-rayed it, and imagine putting the contents of an entire house into these two sheets and just walking on Ryanair with it. You alright with that? Right? The guy looked at it, looked at me and went, "Just a guitar then," you know. And so, it was quite funny. So, and oh man, I'll come to it, right? So there's so much to try and squeeze into this one. I might have to get on to another one. Nonetheless, right? So, so I'm enduring these things. It's no problem to me. It's just you might as well make a potato painting, you know, and then write, "You are what I am. Stop everything you're doing. You're a 90-year-old fool," you know, so shit like that, you know. And then, "I miss you and I bleed tears," you know. "Eat my dinner, Erol. I've painted it on a plate in the distance." Right? So basically, you'd have to watch the last video. I'm not gonna. Fuck off then. So the point is this, right? So I'm showing Cheryl this, right? And sure as fuck, it's all unfolding exactly as I said it would. The exact same. Because I've seen this pattern over and over and over again. The thing that stayed with me was, like I say, down the right hand side of the screen, which I've not seen for about 2 years, there was a video just before I left Scotland she put up, just after I had announced publicly what she eventually then phoned the Police-farce for. And down the right hand side was this, "I know I stand in line, but do you think you have the time to spend an evening with me?" Go and see it, right? It's Tom Cruise's ex-partner, Nicole Kidman, and Robbie Williams, right? And it's a comedy video, and at the very end he goes boom, and she flies through the window. So she's got this kind of rich sense of humour. Because I had, voluminously let it out the bag what she is and put it up on my website, right? And so that's the first time I started to think, I think she was ginger. But I originally thought she had no teeth. But then she put up a song by a Scottish singer who is just not good enough, man. You know, like, imagine Alex Harvey, right? And then this guy, Paolo Nutini, he's like something that's been poured out of one of Alex Harvey's Johnny bags at the back of a fucking, you know, VD clinic. He's just, you know, and she put up a song by him, right? And it said, I've got all my own teeth, and it was this kind of like, she was expecting me to pursue her so she could then goad me, and this is what they're truly thinking. And I had to magnify and amplify these animalcules thought patterns. They have tiny, tiny minds, provably, as I mentioned, with proto-emotions and narrow pathology. You'll have to maybe look at some of my other videos. I'm trying to squeeze a lot in here. Get on me out then! What have I told you? So, the point is this, right? So because of the lyrics in this Paolo Nutini song, I thought, oh, she must have her own teeth. I'd got it into my head because of a tale she gave about my grandmother when she was in a coffin and she had false teeth in, they were slightly protruding. She did have slightly too big teeth for her mouth and at that time. And so I didn't realise she was a heroin addict. I don't know if she was still practising or whether it was cocaine. I know she was an alcoholic. But the point is, I didn't know how to cope with all these different things because they were hidden by her as reading tales, and I'd had to have known everything to help this stupid cunt, because I would have fucking genuinely helped her as a friend, but I wouldn't have known, you see, what I know now about her. And like I say, you know, she thought she'd to con this out of me, and I was like willing to give it to her, you know, like for past reasons as well as her true sob story, as well as her false sob story, and because of her true attentions to me as well as her false attentions to me, and so on. So she then took to sending messages down the right hand side of YouTube, but like I say, I've not looked at it for years, because like I say, she gets high, she believes she's bullying you, she believes she's drawing your attention down. If she wakes up and feels bad that she's not in your life, she then wants to contact you to try and get you to feel bad about her not being in your life. The best way to do that is to seduce you with what I showed Cheryl, right? And it was one of the last songs she put on a channel she had called Toot Sweet 420 on YouTube, and that was her name on UK 420, where I caught her grooming a guy to go round and commit huge offences against him. He was just out of hospital, so I'll move on from that. But the point is, the thing that she had on this thing I was showing Cheryl was Adele. It was one of the last things she put up before she put up an Asian boy playing the ukulele even, and a famous song of cheeriness, and to imply that she's a 5-year-old or 3-year-old boy in a woman's body. It's kind of how she sees herself. But as I've said, she's actually a primitive kind of cave woman, really, in the modern era. And those people tend to be your leaders. But there's such a divided and destroyed and dissected and disconnected society. There's nowhere for them to prosper. And so they start getting stressed, and they're not having enough sex because they're trying to control people around them, including their partner and so on. And so they turn to drink or other ways of getting this satiation or thrill seeking. And like I say, they're released from these lunatic asylums routinely. Got another one. So it took you twice to do that one though. So it was Adele again, and it was Rolling in the Deep. We could have had it all. And then Set Fire to the Rain, which was the second last song I ever saw on the channel. Like I say, I've not looked for any of her messages down the right hand side. And so she's probably sent like loads and loads of messages like for years, and I haven't even looked at one of them. So the thing is this, right? One of the things that I didn't know whether to conclude in my absolutist thinking about or not was, could I be wrong, you know, in thinking that she's ever cared about her fantasy of me, or the reality that she remembers of me, and the fantasy she has about sharing a reality with me. Is that all just bullshit to try and draw your attention down and make you feel how she feels, to delude herself she's a supreme being and so on and so forth. And she's conned you and made you feel how it feels to be hard and da-da-da-da, even after all her offences. But don't forget, like I say, 2/3 of females being paedophiles just disown it and move on, right? And don't see themselves as being a bad person because, like I say, it's not hands-on, it's emotional and psychological abuse which they get sexual relief from, which is worse than physical abuse in many cases. And so, I know this, and the paedophile ring who've got all the facts and figures know this, right? And what do they try and engineer then, socially? They try and engineer for females who are predominantly megalomaniacal psychopaths missing cognitive empathy, right, a core component in your left frontal lobe. Try and engineer a scenario where they will be left alone with children. And if you look at the statistics for single parent, female, left alone with children, invariably, the vast majority of them, 90% of them, are abused and then fall into all the traps set for them by these Zionist pieces of shite, you know. Is that alright, old Les?
So, basically,
My verdict before I move on is this. Yeah, I do believe that McCallum ruse that she decided to have a criminal campaign against me because she fell for me during it, likened herself to Goldie Hawn, and there were other enormous tells, and the very fact she's still sending Cheryl things to this day. It's almost 3 years, basically, I believe she genuinely wishes she could turn back the clock, and that I would have dominated her sooner when I was trying to be Christ-like and compassionate and loving. And when I eventually did put my foot down, it was as though she was on the other end of a loose floorboard. She literally flew through the fucking air, you know, and she was ready for war. I just wanted her to get to fuck, you know. But I genuinely cared about her. You know, it's just, I have self-respect and self-confidence. So, these things are indefectible in me 100% of the time. You know, a good night's sleep, I'll wake up and fuck you, you know. I can take you all on, and that's what I had to do. So, she put this thing up where, you know, boom, I know I stand in line, but do, and it was to tell me, she put up another tell, that she was going to let me know that she was going to have me arrested, right? And so I sensed this, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, what if she tells the filth that I've raped her? Because she said I was going to be Tim Robbins in Shawshank Redemption. Shite movie. I think I'm the only person on earth thinks that's a shite movie. Right? And she said it'd be impossible for me to explain to them that she was essentially the White Rabbit in The Holy Grail by Monty Python. Right? And this was important to her. And so I should just, you know, let her move to the criminal aspect of her campaign overtly, behind which she actually wanted me to marry her, have a child with her, and then for her to dump the child with me, I think. She had all these different mad thoughts, but actually the vast majority of females have these exact same thoughts. They actually see males as being a baby-making cash machine. And that's the way they're groomed by these paedophiles who know that that's self-destruction to see men that way. Because men, 30% of men are your saviour. An additional 30% can be saved themselves by love. And people are meant to complement one another. A third are meant to be culled, for real. Your ancestors used to cull them themselves when they self-governed. They would take them to a river, drown them, or burn them. That was fine. However, that's been factored out to the paedophile ring of these invading spastics. And the point is, so they want them in your life. to abuse you. You know, they want a growing number of kids who grow up to be abusive themselves because they were abused. They want these conditions for you. They want to cull you, oppress you, whack-a-mole, right? That's what they're obsessed with in every conceivable way. And then hiring people exactly like that, so they do it as well. And hiring more people like that, so they do it as well. Right? And these are the people, Marie McCallum, after all her crimes against me had failed, after she became frustrated at foreseeing the future with me seeing her not good enough for me, and she couldn't work it around how to get it any way that would work for her, where she would be seen as she wants to be seen, and you would have had to have studied fucking neuroanatomy and all these kind of things. She would have had to tie you to a fucking chair and explain everything to you, you know. And so anyway, that wasn't going to happen, because I put my foot down, and the human flea went fucking apeshit, or orangutan shit to be more accurate. And so, right, the thing is this, right, so I get these messages from her, right, at the time, going back now at least 2 years, I think, 2 years now, and I'm thinking to myself, she's going to tell them I raped her. This is what my thinking is. And I'm sitting thinking that, right, and maybe about half an hour later, oh, the door is not great! Right? And it's the filth, right? This ginger megalomaniacal psychopath and a predominantly narcissistic but somewhat megalomaniacal psychopath who disgraced himself imbecilically as they're both sex offenders, needing shot. And exposed that in the last one. And I'm taken away in the middle of the night for having typed the truth 4 months earlier on Facebook in a loving way, debunked at the start and at the end, right? So, because of Gordon Brown, this is now called the Telecommunications Act, and if you type the truth about these beasts they want in your life, then you go into their dungeon system to be worked for £20 a week. So, as I said, there was a time you had it at its best, and you could push against this obvious imbecility, because there's only a thin blue line, right? And so you can be the arrowhead of all your ancestors' success stories combined. You can take it to the conditions Robert Peel declared it to be, and then you can disband them and have what you used to have, a Combs stable, not a Con stable of animals being culled, which you're seen as being by these Zionist subhuman fucking pieces of dirt who you're paying. They are hostile dependents who want everything to come back to them. Everything must come back to them. Everything. So here's the thing, right? That's what money is. Money's a con, you know, it's to circulate and come straight back to the asshole. And so, if only Fukushima could fucking do the exact same thing. But in a nutcake, so I'm eventually sitting, as I described in the last one, with two imbeciles, right, in Glasgow, two other imbeciles. One with a burgundy face, and the other one like something that fell out of Yul Brynner's Johnny Bag. And remarkably stupid people. He's a sex offender who's licking his lips constantly. What can I say with my spastic brain? What can I say with my spastic chicken brain? What can I say next? And I'm just sitting watching an imbecile. I still wasn't fully cognizant that he's a sex offender who's masturbating in front of me. If I'd known then what I know now, I'd have executed them. I'll show you how to do that in Erol Killing, but literally, see if you put one on top of the other, they wouldn't have been the same height as me. Which shows you how certain these Zionist piss takers are of your effete cowardice, your dupedness, right? I.e., if you look at the factory producing these binary jumpsuits for these clowns, right? The police-farce, these pigs. If you were to see them going past, you would think it was a fancy dress costume factory. Because they're for kids. They're all about that fucking height now, right? You would see these uniforms and think, what? Right? Kick the fucking shit out of them. Postle Park, where McCallum said she was raised, whether that's true or not, I used to think they were bad people for battering the fuck out the police. They would get the police to come down, cordon them off with burning cars and then fucking stone them with gigantic house bricks. I thought they were quite bad people. I now see why. Now, they used to do it with the fire brigade. I have to study that as well. So then I'm a burgundy sex offender and this baldy fool, and they ask me if I want to be arrested and give me the option of not being arrested, right? And when the burgundy one's out of the room, who there's a 90% chance he's a paedophile. The other one I don't think was a paedophile, but there's a 90% chance he was a paedophile. And he had a family, but so what? When did that stop them? And like I say, he had to make this decision in the dead of night while I'm doing a whole host of things simultaneously, you know, wrapping up my house, ready to rock and all that, you know. Before all that, you know, I'm running a business, I'm raising money for charity, you know, I'm trying to save this kid's life in Africa and India. I'm doing all these different types of things, you know, working locally, nationally and globally for charity, running a successful business, several other businesses, and trying to evolve all these different things. Well, these pieces of selfish, self-absorbed, vacuous shite, you know, are trying to commit offences against me, including her. And right across the board, loads of them. I'll expose them all. So, when I hear that, at that moment in time, I had to make a split-second decision, really. I didn't have many seconds on that one. And I thought, right, here I am with a lot of money, and I don't know exactly where I am. I'm quite tired, I'd like a lie down. I actually quite like lying on stone, right? And so, when I had a comfy hotel bed I could have went to, I came down to my farm as soon as I got it, to lie on the stone floor, even though I was paying for a bed, away up by. I'll come to another story in Erol and Lagitrop. The point is this, right? I thought to myself, well, so those are kind of like trivial things, you know, I could easily just get a taxi, you know. However, I thought, do you know what? No, I don't want a taxi, because like, that would be me spending money needlessly that can go to a starving child, you know. It's letting her take more food out of the mouths of starving children. She's a nihilistic, megalomaniacal psychopath who needs shot, right? So I decide what I'll do is keep her under my control, manipulate her, you know, overtly, and see more of what she predicted would happen. Now they don't know that she's predicted this is going to happen, right? And she's forewarned me and told me she's got a get out of jail free card, right? See care in the community, right? Man, the community. And it's obviously the opposite of caring for divided and conquered stables you're paying through the nose to stay in. What I'm pointing out is, so I had that decision to make, and I thought, well, if I let myself get arrested, she's got to appear in court where I can have her, you know, and out her. And until then, perhaps she won't continue killing like she sent me lots of things saying she would. Lots of clues saying she's going to keep on killing unless I allow her to reseduce me and these kind of things. You know, but always on the verge of, you know, like you almost get the painted dinner plate, you know, and it's like shit, you know. No, I couldn't fall for something like that. However, aspects of her, as I've said, I've concluded definitely wanted to be in a relationship with me, and to this day, I believe she genuinely wants to be in a relationship with me. It's just she knows, to use a line from one of my songs, a title, she's fit for fuck all, you know, and she knows she would fuck up such an encounter one way or the other, and so she doesn't want to face her limitations and so on and so forth, so she's just wanting me to choose to feel how it feels to be her missing me. But I haven't fucking contacted her in 3 years. Right? And so we turned to Cheryl, and Cheryl said that before, just 2 days ago, she said that she's been getting non-stop messages from McCallum. Right? Non-stop. I mean, what? Non-stop? She's never sent me non-stop shit. What the fuck she sending you non-stop shit for? You know? Because like there's things in there that, like I say, predicting what's going to happen fucking next because she sees these things, and which I'm saying, she's your fucking queen, you know, like Elizabeth I. She sees these things in advance, and she can read these tells and stuff like that. Well, she can see, they recognise their own, and I read tells, and people find it hard to read me. I see them. So, in a nut cake. Right, what I'm pointing out to you is that that Cheryl said she was getting all these different things, and so I'd sworn her to not tell me anything. It's been quite good, man. The fact that I don't get emails from anybody at all. I just get emails from Cheryl if I've said somebody can forward me something, right? McCallum is quite sneaky in so much as she'll, you know, contact you in disguise and that kind of thing. I'm expecting 25 years from now to be standing at a bus stop and fucking somebody who looks like Peter Sellers out the fucking Pink Panther standing there with a moustache on. You ain't seen me, right? And eventually peels it off and says to me, "You're dumped, by the way." I mean, so, hey, however she's feeling, she wants you to choose to feel that way. It's transference, it's actually evil. And so, it would just make me laugh and boot her up the arse, you know. But the point is this, so Cheryl asked me a couple of days ago if I want to know what we'd agreed on that she wouldn't tell me about. A better one, slightly better one. And so I said that to not tell me from the get-go, from the last video, and so that McCallum wouldn't know that I wouldn't be getting anything, and so Cheryl would see, right, and to see if, you know, to be absolutist in my thinking. And like I say, Cheryl said she's fucking got loads of shit, and so I said, no, don't tell me, and then I thought to myself, is there anything that stands out a fucking mile? And she said, yeah. She said, when you do something new on the internet, she seems to fucking know about it, right? And I sensed that, right? And noticed that, and she said, the thing that stood out initially was a vague thing. She said, I wasn't sure about it for a while, and I know how she feels. She said, and eventually I thought, nah, that's definitely from her. And she asked me this question, right? Do twins mean anything? Right. And then she told me about that one, and that was ages ago. It was about at least a month ago. And she told me about the other one, which was, she said, I'd told her about one in the past, and she said, one you've told me about in the past seems to have appeared again. And she said, she's sitting in what looks like one of your fields on my farm. I said, and she's wearing jeans that look a little bit too short, and it's somebody who looks really like her facially, and she's got blonde hair. She says, no, red hair. And I'm tempted as fuck to log into my thing and go, does she not have fucking blonde hair in that? You know, and what it's implying though, if you look into it, is it's got 4 lead fucking clovers, and it's a Turkish prostitute site. She's been sending loads of Turkish prostitute shite since day one, but and you're supposed to go, oh no, I'm gaslighted. You know, it's just transference, right? And the point is, the movie Gaslighting, it might be worth seeing it, right? It's ambient abuse, right? It's very important. It's what they're killing you with, what they're culling you and you're stable with. Ambient abuse, increasing levels of abuse you get used to. Ambient abuse. So the point is this, right? He keeps saying the point is this, and he never finishes anything he's saying.
Your mum's a darkie.
It's actually my old man's a darkie, sorry. So, right, here's the thing, right? hold on, I need to, no, Holy Spirit's trying to get a hold of me. Here's the thing, right? So, before I get swept away, you need to see, what she means is, I would like to be sitting in your field, what do you think about that? Contact me so I can put the phone down on you and say you're dafty. But she's also implying, I'm going to do something with the police farce to get your farm off you. And there's a bit of evidence. Whenever she sent me anything, I just looked at it for a split second, put it in the evidence folder, and that's it, right? And Cheryl went into it, and she quite amazed me. She said, there's thousands and thousands in there. Until she said that, in my mind, I had no figure on it, right? Thousands and thousands and thousands of mail that she sent me, right? And like 2 days ago, Michelle's been really busy, right? You know, and she's doing brilliantly. And basically, she is landing on one toe again somewhere in the Champs-Elysees. She's been saying it's been constant. And like I say, sometimes she's in disguise, so maybe sometimes I have fucking written to her, but it's like, see, I get written to by a lot of people, right? And so I don't let on when I believe it's her, right? And I say I'm absolutely certain it's her. I can't let on, because it's usually, she's configured it in such a way where she hopes you feel a berk by imagining it's her. And so therefore you're saying to somebody who might not be her, oh no, it's you, you cow, you know, but there's usually a dead giveaway. However, let's say Cheryl takes care of everything, and although I still have a few social experiments I'm doing, and those people come through, and other people come through who are like preordained, as it were, pre-approved rather. And all I'm pointing out is that she takes care of everything. So she told me she's been receiving loads and loads of stuff, and she is attuned to it, and she doesn't doubt herself by any stretch of imagination. But I don't know what it is, because that's all I would let her tell me. When she told me she saw that, and then she recognised that, I kind of lost track of what I told her, really. And I remembered after she said that I'd told her about this one, because it was just before Celtic won the league, and she sent me that exact image of her in that field, and my old Hotmail account used to automatically translate Turkish into English whenever it felt like it, and I never asked it to, or set it up for that, and it translated into telling me that Celtic were going to win the league the next day, and that's in the evidence folder with these thousands of others. And so, and it's 4-leaf clovers. Why would a Turkish prostitute website be sending me a message saying Celtic are going to win the league tomorrow, 4-leaf clovers, where somebody who looks identical to her sitting in a field, that looks identical to one of my fields. But like I say, you know, the ginger, I would have liked to, I'm not going to look, but it would be funny as fuck to see, were the previous ones blonde? Is this one ginger? I believe it is. But my point being, people might not even understand what the fuck I'm saying, but the point being, these are the kind of things they do, hoping to gaslight you. But if you look within it all, although it's a sinister cunt, you know, who sees himself as being a bully, has no self-awareness, so therefore fucking doesn't realise what a despicable cunt they truly are. And when they get a whiff of that, once again, they just want to disown it and pretend it's you who's the thing that they are. As I'm saying, through it all, from X amount of the time, but in person, funnily enough, she exhibited a hellish character, you know, and then she would degenerate into her true self, but then try and hide that, because they, I think, are truly ashamed of their true self, really, or easily humiliated. And I think there's nothing better for you and your morality and your sensitivity than to sit with a hypersensitive hypocrite who's a homicidal psychopath. I think that's the finishing, honing of your morality and sensitivity. To sit with somebody like that, you realise, fuck me, man, I'm not as moral as I thought I was, you know, like, because, you know, I should be more moral I should be more sensitive, but not in a way that they're hoping you'll fall for, like losing boundary control so they can get off, sex offend against you, and then try and cause you brain damage. I just mean a hypocrite who expects you to be sensitive to the nth degree and moral without fault when they are morally insane and what you would call it criminally insane. It just better helps you hone everything on that level, you know, where you may well not have appropriate boundary control, but you never felt you needed it because you're strong as fuck, you know what I mean? You're big-hearted and you're compassionate. However, what it shows you is that's not necessary, really, for the vast majority of people. That's necessary for the kids whose lives I save in Ethiopia. Probably some of the most beautiful people on earth, unsurprisingly genocided routinely. Right? The most human people. Of all the kids I saved, you know, and continue to, Ethiopia is really where the heart is, really. And Eritrea. And so that's where I would like to go next. After, I want to live on a mountain. So I genuinely do want to live on a mountain, you know. I want to plank my arse on a mountain. Don't you never finishes what you're saying? So, right. So, Cheryl's absolutely certain that I've been sent a load of stuff, and I don't know what else has happened during the course of that month. That's all she sent me, and it basically I'd already concluded about twins and paranoid schizophrenia, but it was just like it could tell me more about her story because of the tells that I remember from that time. However, that story's finished now, right? I don't need to know what ice cream cone she ate in 1983 outside the Penny Arcade in Largs. I've shown phenomenal insight and selfless, compassionate, Christ-like kindness, which, once again, also doubles as softly, softly catchy monkey by coincidence, which allows you to then study these people, these hypocrites from hell. And they show you their true self and their bogus excuse for the pleasure they get from trying to destroy other people's lives. Because they truly fucking hate themselves. Because they are the sole recipient of every decision they ever made in their fucking life. And the moral of the universe, which they can't see as they're mind-blind bastards, morally insane, they've got no moral componentry to help guide them, it's channeled into their life. And no matter how many times she's been punished throughout the course of her life for the bad she's done to other people, she'll still try and find other excuses to pretend, you know, that it's just bad luck. Constant bad luck throughout the course of her life, excoriating her and punishing her for eternity. Why am I getting constant good luck where even the things that most people would think are bad luck for me are gems from the universe? You know, essentially a streak of shite on a lens that I put under my magnoscope and then stack it on top of all the other subhuman pieces of fucking garbage needing shot. However, although they do need shot, these motherfuckers are first in line, right? And these motherfuckers help me see more of what these pieces of shit are since the days of St. Old Les. So, I'm in front of two filthy pigs, right? And I have to make that decision. And so I decide to keep her embroiled in that. And I'm going to see if I can get my day in court. And what happens next is I got up the road and in the last one I've told you about me phoning a month earlier to tell the filth, look, I think she's been in my fucking house and she keeps sending me things implying she's going to kill somebody if I don't go back there. But these pieces of shit, and they're all female, unsurprisingly, who are voluminously bombastic, hate-consumed garbage, who get off on shrieking. They are sex offenders who get off on shrieking. Male sex offenders get off on shouting as well. They're imbeciles. And what I'm pointing out to you is, she said on the phone, well, wait till she kills someone else, then we'll arrest her, sir. So that's wisher biggery for you. So my concerns for the next person not having my self-confidence, not having my irreductible fucking, you know, self-respect, and me seeing her on UK 420 grooming a guy just out of hospital, telling him, I mean, she's the most selfish cunt I've ever met in my fucking life, the most selfish person I've ever met in my entire life. And she's telling him she wants to come down and help him with weeping sores he has on his arse. Think about that. The most selfish person on earth, trying to endear herself to someone just out of hospital, and me knowing that she's a psychotic, cold calculating bully who wants to try and get control of a person's mind, rob them of their cash, leave them with PTSD, and they're already in a vulnerable position. She hopes they feel emotions for her, and then they kill themselves when they can't have her back. She keeps doing push me, pull you, right? And it doesn't work on me. And so I went right up in her estimation. She was impressed by this and thought, maybe I'm the one for her. However, she sees herself as a homosexual boy in a female body. And sometimes she sees herself as Adele, right? Fat bird. And what I'm saying is, with ginger hair. And she's the most female, primitive female, really. She's the original female, really. And it goes to show you how many surviving rejections there are, how many walking abortions there are in that era, way back then, where the fetus could fight in the womb. And she's been fighting ever since. And I felt some sympathy for her because I saw her life story, and I could move her quite easily at times. You know, for example, she was driving like fuck down the road, and this car, she said she'd bought with the money I gave her out of kindness, you know, as a treat. I was trying to inspire her, and I said to her that I'd got this kind of vibe from a grave she'd pretended her friend was died and buried in. She was talking shite, and she was talking about another girl she gave me the impression she'd killed, who was buried over there, but she was talking shite again, although I think that girl trumped her. And the point being, she went to her grave, and she's been buried. But the point is, there we are in this graveyard, right? And I got the impression that I got a sense of something, and I was coming to funny one-liners, as though this sense was saying to me, just rip the pish, don't take her seriously at all. And I didn't take her seriously, and she started smirking and laughing. And she'd been telling me she was thinking about suicide, which I do believe, but it was also part of her ploy. So it's like two parallels simultaneously. She genuinely wants a relationship with you, but she's hedged her bets. And this is her life experience. In a nutcake, anyway, we were driving away from that church where there was a few comical moments. I put in other videos about it and so on and so forth. And I turned to her and I said, you know, she imbecilically said her father had hung himself in that woods over there, and she'd said the other time he'd gassed himself, and I got a reading from her, one of her tells, that he'd drowned himself. However, somebody drowned himself. So I told her about a guy I knew, rest his soul, called Tony Quinn, and he was treated rather shabbily, and he was quite deaf, and so he drowned himself and left his clothes very neatly piled by the side of Strathclyde Park. I really liked the guy, and I was always nice to him. I always stood up for him, and a teacher, a skunk cunt called Duffy, a psychopath, put pepper in his drink and made him drink it in front of me, you know, evil cunt, because he was always playing tricks and being fun and all that kind of thing, and I liked it, you know. Homeschooling, community schooling, not fucking government funded schooling. I'll come to it. So, right, you ready? I said to her, when she was talking about these woods over here and we're flying down the road, I said that, it's as though I'm getting a message, fun enough, from that direction, you know, and I wasn't going to say it, and I'm going to say it anyway. And I said to her, I'm genuinely really sorry for what happened to you. I know I'm not to blame for it, but I'm saying I'm really sorry about everything you went through. as a child, you know, like, it must have been harrowing for you, you know, and I can understand how it adversely affects you, you know, and I think it's important to tell you that, you know, I'm genuinely really sorry that you went through all that, you know. And she started to cry. So she does have a heart, right? The phrase, a tart with a heart, but a tart nonetheless, resonated with her hugely. She laughed at that. It was one of my mother's old phrases. And other phrases were rotten to the core, and that resonated with her. And I could go on, but the point being, I allowed myself to be arrested to keep her from killing these people. And I'd already phoned a month earlier to try and stop her from killing any more people. I didn't want her to be arrested. I didn't think she would be. I think she would just be like, maybe tagged or something, I don't know. You know, and I know that the majority of people, genuinely, 160% of the 200%, 160% should be executed, should be fucking culled. And I'm almost grateful to the Zionist filth for soliciting that to emerge from the shite I used to treat with such Christ-like compassion and kindness, who just saw kindness as being a weakness, you know. And as I've said in the last one, I'm kind of grateful to McCallum for the help she gave me when she thought I was under her spell, you know. And I'm studying her and thinking, this kind of long goodbye that I used to do, you know, because of my sentimentality, and I wanted to end in their favour because I didn't think they were good enough for me, you know. And so morally I have to end it in their favour, and I told her that, and she knew that. And so yeah, so she thinks correctly, 160% out of 200%, well, fuck them, you know, like, if they die and kill themselves, fuck them, because they're pieces of shit, and she's right. You know, 90% of females and 70% of males should be fucking drowned and burned. Your ancestors would have fucking drowned and burned, they cunts. Yeah? But these spastic cunts fucking promote them and put them in your life, and then groom them to be even more narcissistic to ensure they're culling one way or a fucking other. You're gone. So I turn my focus exclusively to humans alone, and fuck everybody else, you know what I mean? However, I, in all conscience, can't take the risk of her focusing on who she tends to focus on, innocent human beings. She doesn't target, she doesn't lay the blame where it belongs. Yeah? So, she targets the vulnerable, the sick, the needy, the dying, the people who she thinks have got clinical depression. You think she would have some empathy with those people, at least some kind of thing in common with them. You know, like both being Celtic fans, it meant fuck all to her. That's why I stopped watching Celtic. She was the 8th Celtic fan in a row who targeted me, who's rotten to the fucking core, and there's no such thing as a Celtic family. I'll cover that in Erol and Tim's. And the thing is, I just couldn't bring myself to watch that shit anymore. You know, my late grandfather put his shovel in the ground and helped build the very first Celtic park. Fuck all you old niggers. Yeah. So, the point is this. Incidentally, poetic justice is happening again and again to all the people who pretend to support Celtic and yet don't give a fuck about a man whose grandfather helped build the first Celtic ground, a man who has supported Celtic financially for fucking years, watched every game, knew it inside fucking out, blah blah blah. You don't give a fuck. It's as long as you're doing the bouncy, you know, or whatever it's called, the fucking, as long as Guinness music is playing in the hollow between your fucking ears, you know, you're doing the huddle. So, I'm pointing out, we had these things in common and I thought they were significant. It's just like beggared belief. Both being Celtic fans, it meant fuck all to her. Both being into marijuana meant fuck all to her. In fact, I'd been kind to her when I first met her and let her pay me with a branch of marijuana, which was inspirational. This is what I was wanting to repay, because I went on to grow thousands and thousands of pounds worth of marijuana to give it a fascist token number to gauge it by. And all these things, you know, and the fact I'd given this greedy lunatic hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds to try and help her with the hardship I'd seen in her. I see into people. I told her, I see them like having their first day at primary school and just see what a mess they've made of themselves since then. You know, people would see me go, he looks the exact same as when he was 4.5, you know. And the thing is, so I could move her quite easily, and I'll give you an example. In person, right? Because of me being non-reactionary, she eventually said to me, I'm lost. Because she had sickened herself. There was no sexual buzz from saying shit that doesn't work on me. Didn't work on me when I was 4.5. My love of truth, morality, conscience, compassion, depth, sentimentality, all these things were some enormously beyond her, especially morality. Me walking about going, I can pick up the moral law of the universe, and she was infuriated by that. However, the point being, she admitted that she was lost, and she felt about that big, she later said, and that she had no moral conscience, essentially, and that everything she'd done was a deliberate choice, and she wanted a clean slate, essentially, to start again. This is why I'm saying, my conclusion is, yeah, she did. But what I said to her is, look, she asked me how she can change, how she can go about these things. And I said, look, humour is the key. Yeah, humour, right? And I said, you don't have to react the way somebody wants you to choose to react. Be emotionally independent. And I gave her an example. You know, I'd been targeted by a female killer before her, called Kay Milton, so she called herself anyway. And I always riffed after her surname. And I'd diagnosed her as being bipolar. That's as much as I could comprehend at the time, really, see insightfully. But she was a paranoid schizophrenic psychopath, and I didn't know. You would call her maybe a sociopath, but she had temporal lobe dysfunction, so she was going about doing really bad things with people, pretending they were doing it to her. But I think she had an ankle tag on, and she was being kept in her mum and dad's attic bedroom, who weren't brilliant, really. They were nice people, but too nice, which is a sad thing to say, with that kind of animal. And by studying her, whom I'll expose on, maybe call it Cain David, because I studied a guy called David before. I was very kind to both of them, and studying her helped me for McCallum, really, because it was like having McCallum on the other side of a screen. And I suppose one of her techniques in Erol on Killing, and it was amazing, really. Fuck me, man, it's amazing. And she copped for being bipolar, at least when I was putting it to her, and McCallum copped for it as well. And this, she tried to factor that into her pathological lying. And so I, in the interim period between these two wonderful lunatics, basically found this poem, and I read it to McCallum. Well, see for yourself. I don't know anything about this particular female poet. From it, I gather that she's a paranoid schizophrenic psychopath. And I'll go over it. It's called The Moon and the Yew Tree. This is the light of the mind. Cold and planetary. The trees of the mind are black. The light is blue. The grasses unload their griefs at my feet as if I were God, prickling my ankles and murmuring of their humility. Fumy, spiritous mists inhabit this place. Separated from my house by a row of headstones, I simply cannot see where there is to get to. The moon is no door. It is a face in its own right, white as a knuckle, and terribly upset. It drags the sea after it like a dark crime. It is quiet, with the o-gape of complete despair. I live here. Twice on Sunday, the bells startle the sky. 8 great tongues affirming the resurrection. At the end, they soberly bong out their names. The yew tree points up. It has a Gothic shape. The eyes lift after it and find the moon. The moon is my mother. She's not sweet like Mary. Her blue garments unloose small bats and owls. How I would like to believe in tenderness. The face of the effigy, gentled by candles, bending on me in particular, its mild eyes. I have fallen a long way. Clouds are flowering, blue and mystical over the face of the stars. Inside the church, the saints will all be blue. Floating on their delicate feet above the cold pews. Their hands and faces stiff with holiness. The moon sees nothing of this. She's bald and wild. And the message of the yew tree. The message of the yew tree is blackness. Blackness and silence. And I turned to her and she was crying her eyes out. She's a tart with a heart. Makes it worse. So, I said to her, emotional independence, you're supposed to be laughing, you promised you would laugh at the end of all that. You don't have to choose to feel anything that anybody wants you to feel. You know, if you break down that whole thing from top to bottom very, very quickly, this is the light of the mind, right? She's telling you what her mind is like, cold and planetary. Everything's just an object. She has no object constancy. She doesn't see articulately. Everything's just cold objects. The trees of the mind are black, right? That's her pathology. She's a dark, clinically depressed person. Even the light, at least she gives a little, is blue. You know, the grasses she's talking about are the people she's in the town with. In today's culture, by these Zionist scumbags, this girl's wild, right? She wants to be wild. So these people at least are keeping her where she should be. you know, in a kind of no woman's land, but nonetheless not in the wildness these Zionist subhuman fucking pieces of garbage want females to be destroyed by, reliably, and their children too. She refers to the people the hypocrites, mainly, that she shares a town with, as the grasses, right? And she projects them as, you know, unloading their griefs at her feet as if, you know, she were God, prickling her ankles and murmuring of their humility, right? And she towers over them in her mind because to her they're just little tiny insects, right? And fumy spiritus mists inhabiting the place, right? So you see a kind of like dreamy world that paranoid schizophrenics have due to the exposed wiring. Separated from a house by a row of headstones, you know, this kind of like, as Socrates said, like looking at ourselves through a glass darkly. I simply cannot see what there is to get to the meaninglessness of having no frontal function. The moon is no door, it's a face in its own right, so there's no escape, but she recognises, projects herself onto the moon. She projects what she wants onto the moon. White as a knuckle and terribly upset, that's how she feels, tense and angry, and she projects it onto the moon. It drags the sea after it like a dark crime, right? This is what I mean about having no moral conscience, right? You know, she doesn't want consequence for her actions from these little grass creatures, but she does know she drags a whole fucking sea of dark crime behind her. And then she just said, "Is this quiet?" You know, where she is at this moment in time, it's the best place to keep them in a stress-free environment. With the O gape of complete despair, right? You now see what's inside her, like the silent scream. And then she says, "I live here." You know, she is isolated as fuck, and she's seeing herself as being no different to the moon in many ways. Then, twice on Sunday, the bells startle the sky, right? So, basically, at least something's happened, you know. And like, she's snapped out of her kind of delusional reverie. 8 great tongues affirming the resurrection, they're just bells. And she's trying to say nah nihilistically, because of this lack of function and meaning. You know, it's all bullshit. You know. At the end, they soberly bong out their names territorially. The yew tree points up as a Gothic shape. Now, this yew tree I see as being herself, right? Now, you could see it as being a father figure. I see it as being herself, right? And it'll make more sense in a minute, right? The eyes lift after it and find the moon. So she's looking to her mother, right? And the moon is my mother, right? She's not sweet like Mary, so I believe her mother's oppressive as fuck and telling her, "Why are you not like the other girls?" And she's the other girls who've been hypocrites, you know. And she knows herself not to be a sweet person, you know. she's Gothic, you know, and her blue garments unloose small bats' owls. So basically, even her at her most light-hearted, like Kay and Marie, who I've mentioned, you know, like when they're being at their happiest, they're unloosing small bats and owls, you know, which isn't really sweet like Mary. And how I would like to believe in tenderness, right? They can't trust anyone because they're not trustworthy. And people aren't sensitive enough towards one another. And we aren't truly moral. As I said, you're better off being with a hypersensitive hypocrite who's a homicidal psychopath for a while. Especially paranoid ones who are schizophrenic. Yellow River. Because you can hone how you should be, even in a world damned and doomed by a giant series of radiation disasters, because, you know, there are pyramids under the ground that want to resurface. The face of the effigy, gentled by candles, so it's just an effigy, and it's gentled by candles, you know, and she would love it to be real. but she's still projecting the moon as more real, and as a mother, and bending on me in particular, it smiled eyes. Yeah, so that's what she wants, but she used the word "it's." And then when she says, "I've fallen a long way," I think that's what hit home to McCallum and why she cried. And she says, "Clouds are flowering. At least there's some flowers there, somewhere for her." Blue again, and mystical over the face of the stars. So there's other faces there that she can see, hopefully, beyond, the focus of these miniature hypocrites, as she would like to see them. Inside the church, the saints, this is her slagging off the people, the saints will all be blue, hypocrites floating on their delicate feet over the cold pews. She finds no solace in any of these things. She believes she sees through them. Their hands and faces stiff with holiness. Once again, she's mocking the people she shares a village with who oppress her, and correctly so and incorrectly so. The moon sees nothing of this, which is why she idolises this role model. She is bald. She doesn't have to have her hair the way a woman is presumed to have her hair, and wild. She's allowed to, and she doesn't. Nobody complains about the tide that she pulls behind her. They appreciate it. And the message of the yew tree, and this has really resonated with McCallum: blackness and silence that she brings on herself. And the famous character from a show called The Fast Show, where the guy was obsessed with the black. If you don't have full function here and full function there, you're missing meaning to your life. You're missing the true perception of what it's like to exist in reality and just to have sense. If you're missing a sense, you have less sense. And as I've said in the last video, if I could have made huge allowances for McCallum, I would have done, and did. All the ifs. I would not have given a fuck about her being ginger. I wouldn't have given a fuck about her not having a tooth in her mouth, believe it or not. I'm not superficial. I wouldn't have given a fuck about the fact she's got one eye. Right? I wouldn't have given a fuck if she'd put on 4 stone or whatever. I wouldn't have given a fuck about other things that and if she'd come correct, if she'd come to me and said, where she was in life, that she wanted to change and all the rest of it. However, I've portrayed how she wanted to come to me, and it certainly wasn't to change, but yet I made a huge impact on her, whether she changed or not. And in return, she decided to try and get me arrested. So I went along with it to try and expose the police farce. And in the little time I have left here, I'll do another one later. Suffice to say, I chose to get arrested so that she would appear in court, and so she may stop her crap and evil between then and that time. And so I chose to manipulate her overtly. I tend not to manipulate people except overtly. Never influence anyone, which is annoying a wee bit. In the past it used to be annoying actually, because I could easily make anything I want happen. I have to be 100% moral and I have to be 100% honest. And so I'm on the toughest mode that I call insane mode. In computer games you can set it to insane mode. Not played one for years, but the point being like that, like you I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, you set it to insane mode, and otherwise there's no point playing the game, and I'm not into playing games in real life. All I'm into doing is saving children's lives, producing my art as though the Fukushima wasn't killing everybody, as though there weren't Zionist turds, and rings of complicit paedophiles and sex offenders destroying your life, whose wages you're paying from your stable. Go and look at the work of Robert Peel and how he tried to help Ireland turn over what the English scum had done to them. However, that will become clearer in Erol and Donal talks. What was behind that? And he tried and tried, and eventually he did manage to get the Corn Laws changed for Ireland. You know, while they were still stealing their beef and all these other things. And they're still tormenting them to this day. Psychopaths are the scum of the fucking earth, yeah? McCallum had that little sliver of a heart. And so, although I don't know anything other than what she's sent to Cheryl a month ago, right? I said in the last video, and I think I've said in other ones, I've said to all the Mary Magdalens out there and the males, psychopaths who've targeted me, to record themselves like this. It doesn't have to be as hilariously funny as I've made this one. And to send me that, you know, or send Cheryl it. Right? Cheryl's a good person, and she'll forward it to me. Or write something and send it. Cheryl will forward it to me. And it doesn't have to be anything that you think that I might be looking for. Just remember these immortal words. I see into people's soul, no matter how tiny, to the nth degree. And I sense their suffering, right? And, you know, nobody knows what I've been through. I'll expose it in Erol on PTSD and Erol on child abuse unless I combine the two. And what I've overcome and what I overcome on a daily basis, because you can still crawl and you can still smile, right? And all I'm pointing out is, if you look at your suffering, if you were to weigh it, if you were to put it all together and actually give it a weight, comparatively towards somebody eating a cream cake or a meringue, right? And a meringue-a-tang. And the thing is, right, if you were to do that, to weigh all your sorrow, to weigh it, give it a tangible weight, right? Now, truly articulate it, right? As best you can. And say, right, that's the weight of my sorrow. That's what I wish hadn't happened to me, you know. That's what I carry with me. And that's my dead weight. That's what I want to give to other people as a burden. And all these other degenerate things come from that. But what I'm pointing out is, if you just calculate it, just go back to when you were an orphan or whatever it may well be, as I know more than one Mary Magdalene who was an orphan, and so on and so forth, and the tragedy of what Zionist paedophiles had in store for them. If you just add it all together and go through the whole process, then just think, there's a girl in Eritrea. She's the same age you were when it all started turning shite for you. Yeah. And in Eritrea, just look at the parallel. Right? She's almost butt naked. She's in baking African heat and freezing African nights. She's surrounded by fucking lunatics. She's preyed on. She's vulnerable, as you could possibly imagine. She's starving. She's got an extended stomach. She's routinely hit. Her father was murdered. Her mother's starving. And at any juncture, anything can happen. If you look at her life, right, it doesn't have to go the same way yours did. You know, you can genuinely do something about that for what it's worth. And if you can, you must. And although you can't change what happened to you in your past, nor should you. Because everyone's got something phenomenal to offer It's just we're all divided and disconnected since they locked us in the stable. You know, and we can take this all back. And what I'm saying is, females have been so empowered that, especially if females come forward, like McCallum and co, and say, look, just deliver something that can be put to bloody good use. Yeah? Then in return, I'll seriously consider, if not immediately grant, whatever wish you could close your eyes and wish would come true. I channel the moral law of the universe. I genuinely perform miracles. You know, you couldn't have got a more articulate answer to all of Marie McCallum's prayers. You know what I mean? An alcoholic, I own a fucking vineyard. I own 4 fucking vineyards. You know what I mean? I'll never know what it's like to go to a supermarket and pay for booze ever again. I'll never know that feeling of, here, I'm almost out of booze. That panic at 2 a.m. when you should be going to your bed. You know, I'm going to climb over that garage and get to the petrol station. You know, but the point is that, and also just every single one of her prayers was answered in me, but she didn't come correct, and so she got what she deserved. But what I'm pointing out is, with her and those like her, I can channel a miracle for you if you deserve it. And if you do this, compared to all other psychopaths, then you deserve a miracle. Another one. And life can be magical. I've seen kids who were starving to death send me letters telling me they've now got a milky cow. Imagine Africans not having a fucking cow, you know what I mean? And walking about in their fucking bare feet, and when they're going huge distances and that. What I'm saying is, and then send me photographs, man. The Ethiopians were, my God, when you saw a photograph of their gratitude, it just came right out of the photograph, you know. And I'm not looking for gratitude, I'm simply saying they deserve it, you know, they deserve all of us, you know, to help them. And in so doing, by parallel, we help ourselves, but that shouldn't be our motivation. My point being, really simple. If you out yourself, McCallum has been sending me shit for 3 fucking years, right? Put it all together, surface yourself, you know, submariner, you know, in your ginger submarine, right? All the other people who know who you are, yeah, you can contact me with your proof, or whatever it is you want to try and give me, and whether it be personal, impersonal, something that I couldn't think of, or whatever it might be. Just understand this. In McCallum's case, there is no way I can ever know what you sent me ever again, because other than this, Cheryl's sworn to 100% secrecy. We almost did not know. I almost didn't know, you know, like what had come in the last month, but I relented, and you know, however, I still don't know. I'm sure it's been at least 4 weeks since then. So since those ones, so I don't know what's happened, you know, since Cheryl told me 4 weeks preceding that time, and so it's been 2 days, but 4 weeks preceding that, I don't know what McCallum's tried to communicate in any way, shape or form. All I know is just over 4 weeks ago, I think, she tried to contact me in certain ways. And slightly annoyingly, Cheryl told me, you know, she's been sending loads of things. I don't know what they are, you know. However, you can't get anything past me. And so, there is no way of communicating with me ever again. So, Merry Christmas and goodbye. See, I'm not going to hold my breath as much as she would want me to, you know, for a good while. You know, there's a few out there, and yet all I've said is, weigh your suffering and compare it to that wee girl in Ethiopia who's definitely going to die. You can save her, and I can save you. Whether you believe in hell or not, right? There's only one or two outcomes there. Either hell does exist, or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then you cease to exist for eternity. And what you've done is have a shite life, really, no matter how you look at it, a failure. You save that one wee girl, and those like her, that can channel the surfacing of people like yourselves, then your life has great meaning, you know, and for what it's worth to you. And what I'm pointing out is, if hell does exist, you can look at these two options, it doesn't exist and you cease to exist for eternity, or it does exist, and I'm channeling the moral law of the universe as living proof. I've walked through fucking prison bars going, as you'll find in the next video, right? You'll piss yourselves laughing, right? I ripped the fucking pish out of an entire police force, right? Fucking left them devastated, and you know, with in court, fucking destroy the whole court on record, right? And exposed a paedophile in the sociopath work department who I've never met in person, or I would have executed him, and I still wouldn't have thought it was right at the time. And basically, lucky him, unlucky everybody else. Right? His name's Paul Goodship. You need to execute Paul Goodship. He admitted to me to being a sociopath who hoovers children into a paedophile ring. That's Paul Goodship, working in the sociopath work department of North Lanarkshire, and his partner Susan, who admits to being a sociopath as well. Also, the pigs are Lorraine Sharkey, Stevie Nolan, I think his name is. They are megalomaniacal psychopath and narcissistic psychopath with some temporal lobe dysfunction on his part. Both admitted to being psychopaths to me. Jeanette Cameron, who's their gaffer's gaffer, who is a megalomaniacal psychopath. Gillian Murdoch, who's a wahoo megalomaniacal psychopath. And the aforementioned ones I've covered in this in the previous one. And another guy who I'll expose in the next one, who's 90% chance he's a paedophile, very, very, very likely. And so, all the pigs I'm talking about, if you brain scan them with an fMRI scan machine, you'd find every word I'm saying to be true. So there you are paying the wages of psychopaths who get off on targeting people in the community they know to be human, whom they're existentially jealous of, who they want to abuse because that's why they went for the job. Stable. Right? So to reprise just very slightly. So, there's no way I'm ever going to listen to anything Cheryl tells me unless it's something specific from the aforementioned people. If they want to prevent from happening to a little girl the weight that she needn't carry, that will kill her, you know, decades earlier than the survivors I'm communicating to. You can genuinely surface however you choose, instead of covertly and foolishly and with evil intent as at least one of the hedged bets. Otherwise, as I've said, my Christmas gift to you is goodbye. And a little thanks for helping me, you know, in amongst trying to kill me and having me arrested and, well, having me detained and me choosing to be arrested, really. Having me detained 3 times, that was hilarious. And the shit's garbage, you know, I'm a living Christ, you know, fuck it easy. And so, yeah, I'm on a planet of savage beasts, and I'm saying to them, I need to do more, and I can do more, and I will do more, and I'm doing more. I can do even more. The more people realise what's the most important thing in the universe. If it isn't that wee girl, then what is it? You know? So see yourself in that wee girl. You don't have to feel it in. Just know your own experience, how that felt for you. And know that you can save her from that. She doesn't have to go through that. It's needless, you know. Excruciating agony and death. Yeah. And these Zionist subhuman pricks want that to happen. As I've said, in Ethiopia, and the most human people out of all the kids whose lives I've saved, and the most human by fucking miles, and unsurprisingly the most genocided area in the world. And so people need to wake the fuck up and get rid of these needless constables and fucking filthy psychopaths who get the job specifically in the wee tiny clown outfit to abuse people, and if they can't abuse people they get worse and worse and worse towards that person until they want that person sectioned and done in, as you'll find out in the next video. The shit's garbage, and I fucked everyone. Fucking easy. And I've got loads of evidence on them, and I'll reveal it in the next one. And so, Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Mimas. However, like I say, give the gift of life and think about eternal life if you're wrong.